Hello. Okay, we are live on Facebook Live, and we're here at the Parenting Place. My name's Petra Bagust. I'm working at the Parenting Place, and joining me today is Sue Wright from Brainwave Trust Aotearoa, and we are collaborating because it takes a village to raise a child. And so we think it's worth talking about those precious years when your baby's 0 to 2. And we're basically thinking it's such a good idea to talk about the 0 to 2 years that not only are we going to do a Facebook Live event, we are also going to run an evening and gather all these beautiful people who know about babies, who can support and encourage you raising your own child. And the keynote speaker is the fantastic Norma Hayward from Brainwave Trust Aotearoa. So a quick plug for the event. Hey Baby is happening in Auckland on Thursday the 29th of June. It starts at 7 p.m. and goes until 9 p.m. and it's at the Parenting Place in Green Lane. So if you want a ticket, $20 for one ticket, $30 for two tickets, then go to the Parenting Place website. I'm sure there's a link on your Facebook page to that page and buy a ticket. It's going to be an amazing evening. But why not start it off by talking about sensational 2-year-olds? So, Wright, tell us a little bit, what is Brainwave Trust Aotearoa?
Okay. Brainwave is a charitable trust, and we were formed at the time in which all the science was starting to look inside the brains of babies and young children. And it was explaining to us what we instinctively understood about babies' development, but then it revealed a whole lot more about the impacts of experiences and the environment a child can experience and the effects it can have on their brain and their development.
So as a young parent, I remember the first thing I did when I found out I was pregnant was go and buy a book. And there are so many books now. My parents, they never bought a book. They never read a book, never bought a book. But there's so much information out there now. Is there anything different about Brainwave Trust's info?
You're so right. There are millions and millions and millions of books, and more than that, I think there's millions and millions of people who want to give you good advice as well.
Yeah.
What we do is we go back to the basics of what your child is, what's happening for your child in their development, so you can put your own judgment about what your baby needs. So by understanding their development, by understanding how their brain is growing, you can make your decisions for your own child.
So you're essentially wanting to provide parents with information about how their children is going to respond in certain situations, how their brain is functioning, and then the parent, the adult, can say, well, I need to do this or I need to provide that.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And so they can really think, so that's my baby at this moment is really going through a phase where it's starting to explore. I need to think about, if that's what's happening, that's great for their brain. How do I make that a safe, nurturing environment where they want to keep on exploring and growing?
Okay, so it's not a list of rules, but it's an understanding of what phase or what's going on for your child, and then you make a decision or several decisions about how to respond to that. I like that idea.
And the beauty of it is it all comes through science. So what we're doing is we are scanning all the time the worldwide science and keeping it up to date and keeping our information. So it's really fact-based. It's not an idea of parenting, it's not somebody's concept, it is really what's happening for your baby in reality.
Okay, so we would absolutely love your questions. Shelley, can you log me onto our event? If you want to post questions in the comment section on your Facebook page, then we would love to answer your questions. I have here are a few questions I prepared earlier. Can you tell me, because I've started to hear that when babies are born, it's like their 4th trimester is that first period of time. What's going on in a baby's brain when they come out, when they're just that teeny tiny newborn that is eating and sleeping?
Okay, well let's actually explore a little bit further back from that if we could.
Yeah.
Well, one of the amazing things is within the first 3 weeks of conception, that little brain is developing. And what that role of that brain is ultimately going to be is it mediates what we feel, what we are thinking, and how we behave and what we do. So it's a very important organ. It grows enormously during pregnancy, and in fact what happens is by the time we're born, we have pretty much the complement of brain cells we'll ever have in our lives. Well, our brain today has the same brain cells we had at birth, pretty much. So it's an incredible organ. So now you move into that next phase. And the question is now, how do these brain cells that are sitting throughout the brain, what happens to make them connect up and form and grow and control what we do, think and feel?
So the raw material is there, but we need to make good, healthy connections to get the brain to function. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And the only way the baby can do this is by listening, by all of these senses. So they're watching, they're hearing, they're feeling, they're tasting. How many babies put things in their mouths?
Everything in their mouth.
All of those senses are coming in through their body.
Yeah.
And their brain is receiving this, and now they're trying to make sense of it. So in the very first days of life, they know mum's voice, they know dad's voice, if they've been around in that third trimester. So they naturally feel comfortable and want to be with that person. And so there's an immediate grounding at birth for them to function and live. But now experiences kick in. Humans are unique. They're one of the few animals and species that are born with a brain ready to be connected to help us thrive and survive in life. Other animals are born at birth, can get up on their feet and go off walking, eating grass and doing the things they need to do. So we literally adapt to the world we grow in.
Wow. Which I guess makes us very vulnerable. So what do we do as parents to really promote those connections, really positive connections?
Okay. Well, it makes us vulnerable, but it also is incredibly excitingly positive too. So if we surround our babies, what they most need is that nurturing, responsive, loving care that is giving them a sense of safety. They need their needs met in those early days and weeks and months. They need to be fed, they need to be cuddled. Touch is a very important sense. Sound, our senses. Think about all the senses and how they talk about it as a bath of all these senses that can make a baby really, all their connections grow.
I remember as a child, when I had my first child, I was like, whoa, I'm too nervous to take them to a mall because of the sensory overload. It was almost like, that's too much. But you're saying surround them with all of those positive things of your voice and the touch and, you know,
and responding to them. And responding to them so that they get when they're hungry, when they're telling you through their cries that you try to puzzle out and work out what they're trying to say. If they've got a parent that's responding to them, it leaves them in a very safe scenario, safe environment, and so the connections tend to form, which are the natural ones that will grow for a baby when they're feeling safe.
So what do we do with our stress? Because when the baby becomes distressed, if you're the primary caregiver, you can easily become stressed.
Yeah. And that's a really big part of parenting. One of the things about babies is that they're responsive in general to how they're treated. So yes, at times we get stressed. Yes, at times we're tired. Yes, at times we can't respond. But if the general pattern of response is one of responsive, nurturing, loving care, then that's what the baby is learning. And in fact, it's not a bad thing sometimes later on if a baby has to get a little bit stretched in their stress because they might be going to walk down some stairs, because they'll learn more as they push those boundaries.
So you're sort of saying, don't feel, if you are stressed or you do get tired and feel overwhelmed, don't feel like you've ruined your baby or you've done this irreparable damage. It's about what you're doing generally that's much more important than what you do once in a while.
Absolutely. And as time goes on and you're able to communicate more with your baby, then you can actually start to express to them, you were feeling stressed and it's all right, darling, and I'm so sorry this happened, and move on.
So even if they don't have language, you can say, hey, my darling, Mum was a bit tired. You can just talk to them like that.
You did that so well.
Mum was definitely tired.
And the baby's heard tone and they've heard the nurturing, and they look at your face and they get it.
So can we talk for a second about tone?
Absolutely.
How important is tone?
Tone's really important. And actually one of the interesting things is in the very early stage, language and communication. We're a social species.
We so are.
So we need to be able to talk with each other and get on with each other and read each other. Very, very early on, a baby babbles and provides sound, and the parent often responds. And often it's that mirroring of response that gets, you can see in their brains when you look inside their brains, they're sparking to it all. And when parents go with that little tone of, oh, what's happening to you now, that what we call parentese, they actually see the baby's brains sparkle up to it because they've got a hearing sound level that really responds to that in the early months.
So let go of feeling a little foolish when you do all the baby talk. Just go for it. When you see your friends' babies, just go for it. They love it.
Go for your instincts. Yeah, your instincts.
Because you do. I think it doesn't matter what country a baby is born in. Parents all do the kind of the sing-song and the long vowels, don't they? It's
absolutely.
Like just this.
Yeah. And it's all aligned, actually, with how their brain is wiring up for language. really early on.
Wow.
So it's a very early phase of language development.
And maybe there's something, like, I think we sometimes get so practical or logical. I know that when my daughter was 1 and I said, it's time for your bath, she couldn't talk. She couldn't say, okay, Mum, I'll go and have my bath. I just said, it's time for your bath, let's go. She crawled towards the bath. And it was kind of just a really good reminder to me that because she can't speak doesn't mean she can't understand. You know, when there's a difference there, we can sort of assume, but perhaps it's important for us to almost draw them ahead, like talk to them as if they can understand appropriately, but encourage them to, I guess, into understanding.
I think you can never talk enough with your baby. Talking with a baby is so crucial for their development.
But tell me about that, because you've used the word talking with, not talking to. Why have you said talking with the baby?
Good. Well done. Because it's about a two-way relationship. So we're about to have a bath. Are you ready? Let's think about what we're about to do. Oh, that sounds great. Yes, why don't we get you changed?
Are you
now?
loving this for that? Are you loving this for that?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
But actually, one of the things I'd like to pick up on is you talked about a year your baby responding. They are like absorbing all the sounds. You know, by 4 months, they actually recognise the typical words they're already hearing. Banana, bath, some of those words are already in context, got a sense.
Yeah.
So you think 4 months, they're little tiny babies, not even sitting often, and yet they're already, the brain is wired up to start to understand language. Incredible.
Fantastic. That's so good. Hey, feel free to type up a question and post it on the Parenting Place Facebook page, and we will get to it. I can go to the comments. Who knows? I'm not a very good Facebook driver, but I can learn. So there are lots of. Can we do some? Should we tackle some tricky issues? Should we go for some issues like technology and babies this early on in our Facebook Live? What do you think as far as screen time and teeny tiny children are concerned? Like, is there a rule or is there a guideline? Like, what do we do?
Well, maybe first to back up again.
Okay, let's back up.
If I may, is just to talk about what does a baby need.
Okay, cool.
So if we then we can talk about the effect of technology on it. And what the baby does need is an environment and an experience in the early phase that's really rich. The relationships in their lives are fundamental.
Okay.
So they are looking for humans, that adult, in their lives to help them navigate these years, the first year particularly. You know, 70% of the brain growth occurs in the first year of life to adult size. 70%.
Just going to write that down.
It's amazing. Oh. And by 3, 85%. So an enormous amount is happening.
First year.
And it's all learned by the experiences that are coming to them and the coherence of those experiences.
So what do you mean by the coherence?
What I'm meaning by that is it's how mum or dad or the people around them are responding to them. So when they're having a cry, it's how they get the pick-up and the response, or they may be left to lie, but touched. But it's the looking for the response of how that is in terms of tone, in terms of touch, in terms of the whole way people respond to them. Because with time, they learn, so if I'm feeling distressed and I get that touch, that's about to be a nice thing that's going to help me go forward. So the patterning of what's happening and how they're getting that experience is crucial. So relationships are the number one thing. They will look to people in the rooms, and they'll look to faces over the preference of anything else.
So say then, what if you think, classical music is good for my baby, I'm going to play classical music all night to my baby or all day to my baby. Is this a rich social interaction?
Well, it misses the human aspect, which is what I'm really talking about.
Yes.
But it may create the background environment of a nice calm environment, because children do pick up those sounds and they will hear those sounds, but it's all the context of what's then happening in the human world around that sound that matters.
So you're saying primary need there is for rich, connected human interaction.
And responsive, nurturing relationships are an absolute foundation for our early development.
Do you think as parents, we're sometimes so focused on things like why is the baby crying, or how much sleep I've had, how much sleep they've had. Those are all important. And is the baby gaining weight, and is this happening, and have they got this or have they done this, that we haven't crystallised the idea that actually my job today is to hang out with the baby. Like, I think coming from a working environment where I would achieve on a daily basis, I didn't really think, my job today, or my most important task, my priority on the top of my list is meaningful interaction with baby. Might have been get through the day alive, in baby life, but it's a slightly different perspective, isn't it?
It's a beautiful way to describe it, because really that is the thing that babies need most. They need lovely, responsive, caring humans. Play with them, sing to them, when you're getting them in and out of the bath, talking to them. All of those experiences are what grows those sparkling brains. Can I share one story, because we're going to move into technology for a moment, but there was a very interesting study I saw on the internet, and it was looking at language development. And when do we learn a language? How do we learn language? And it was looking at the age between 6 and 9 months old, small babies, and they wanted to teach babies a second language. So they put these little babies either in front of a screen, where there was another language coming to them, or they sat them with a human who spoke the other language. And what they found, and I've talked about that 6 to 9 month window, because actually they found that's when babies do pick up that second language. That's when, literally after that phase, we tend to prune back, take away the connections that allow us to speak different accents. But what they found is that the contrast between that screen-based, where they literally you looked at the language centres, nothing was sparkling, nothing at all. But you looked at the language environment of the other second language speaker, and the brain was sparkling away. So humans, it's human interaction. It's not about screens. It's not about other ways of entertaining babies. It could be that they go out playing and explore. That will sparkle their brains as well.
So essentially what you're saying is information on its own, like the information of another language, is useful, but the delivery mechanism is the most important. So both those babies were exposed to a second language, but the mechanism of delivering that information was entirely different. One was human, one was electronic, and one was more effective and one was less effective.
And I guess I take out of that we often think that we can pop our baby in front of a screen and have them, at least they're being entertained and it might help their brain grow.
Yeah.
We need to be very clear that at that stage their brains are not responding, because they're looking for that screen, for them to go smile at the screen and the screen to smile back, but it doesn't, because it's a program. They're looking for that interaction and that responsiveness. So screens do not help babies' brains grow. We may use them for other reasons, but that's not going to help necessarily your baby.
Okay, so you might use a screen to give yourself a 10-minute break, to go to the loo or to do something. What do we do if a parent is tired and needs just a wee break and feels like they must provide entertainment to their baby all the time? Are there other alternatives that you'd suggest?
I might share some guidelines, if I may, because the American Association of Pediatrics has done a huge review of the role of technology and how it works. And here's the guidelines. They're saying that from 0 to 18 months, babies, no screens. No
0
screens.
to 18 months are saying no screens.
No screens, except for interactive Skype where they're with the parent. And then after between about 18 and 24 months, they said you can introduce guiding and introducing screens is fine, so long as parents with, talking with, exploring and using that screen as part of that relationship growing. After 24 months through to 5, they're still saying maximum of 1 hour a day and in relationship. So again, they're saying all the way through, right through to 5, the role of screens and the role of all these different myriad of tools that we now have are maximised, and in fact really will benefit your baby if they're used in relationship. Now, what do you do under 18 months? I've often thought of this because I've got my grandchildren, I watch my daughter, and I did share this with her, and it was quite a challenge really, because under 18 months, no screens, so now you're going out and what do you do? A part of it is that babies don't need to be entertained all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't matter if they have just some time where they're entertaining themselves, and they don't necessarily have to be put in front of something to be entertained.
Yeah. No, our son was asking if he could take an iPad somewhere, a device, and I said no, and he goes, but what will I do? And I'm like, you will do nothing. You will wait. And there's this thing, I think the art of waiting is the art of actually allowing yourself the space or time to notice. Like I think sometimes we see boredom and waiting as these terribly negative things that must be avoided. But if you can get through the discomfort, there's good stuff inside that.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's the same with if you can get through a fussiness in a young child, or a kind of an antsiness, then sometimes on the other side of that is one of my children played with a pot and a lid for an hour and a half one day, and I was like, wow, that is so entertaining. I'm so stoked for you and for me. Yeah.
And isn't there a message in that? That we don't have to go out and buy toys. We don't have to go and create other environments. They put them on the grass and watch them explore the leaves and the grass and the touching of it. There's a natural playground in our homes and in our gardens.
Yeah. One of my favourite sights ever after dropping my son off to primary school is to walk home and you see mothers with preschool children, and they are making the progress of a snail. You know, they are literally standing on the pavement, like pointing at a stone or a piece of dirt, and they're just like interested in everything. And the mothers have accepted that enough to slow down and just let their kid progress at snail's pace. It's just does bring joy to my heart, because I'm not sure I did it that well. I'm like, okay, we've got to get going, we need to get home, it's time for a cup of tea, whatever it was. But in fact, you know, that surrendering of relentless improvement. We can raise our children, I think, sometimes with a capitalism perspective, where we're seeking the next milestone or the next achievement, or what are we doing next. And in fact, it's much more about that circle journey, isn't it, of discovering and exploring. And
And you've just described the being with.
Okay.
The child-led, the reality. That they'll stop and pick up a flower and you're thinking, I've got to be at school in 10 minutes, but isn't that a beautiful yellow flower? Oh, doesn't it smell nice? And their little brains are going sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. You are growing their brains while you are engaging with and supporting them. So one of the challenges for busy adults is, how do we slow down and literally genuinely be with
We have
children?
got a little bit, I've got some questions. We've got some comments saying, I think this is very good. Yes, it is being recorded, Barney. We can, it can be shared. We'll post it afterwards. What about talking to babies in languages other than English? Do you have any advice?
Oh, that's a very good question. Well, currently we're actually doing a very in-depth review on this, but we do have science that tells us already. We talked about that window of learning another language.
With 6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months. But actually much more importantly is that babies, right from the day they're born, are bathed in language.
Yep.
You bathe them in language. Now, language should be the one that you are most rich in. So if you are a second language speaker, say a Samoan speaker or a Thai speaker, speak in that language. Be rich with that language. And then as time goes on, other languages like English and other languages can be built into that experience. The child will respond best with that rich, gorgeous language that's natural and comfortable for the adult to speak with them.
So you're saying it's best to focus on your first language?
The
So
one
if you're-
you have that's richer, that's more rich and more able to be expanded.
Rather than trying to necessarily teach them a second language that you don't know? Or
Well, that's fine if you're having, say, if, for example, my son-in-law speaks French, but it's not as fluent as English. So they speak English to their children, but sometimes he will pop in French words. But the richness for my grandchildren is that English is the rich language. But for somebody else, it might be that French is their rich language, and they'll pop in English words.
Yeah.
So that the thing is, work with the language you are strongest with.
It's interesting. What about this? What impact does babies' sleep or lack of sleep have on their brain development?
So that's a really good question.
Thanks, Jo.
Boy, is it an angsty one as mums.
I know! Like kind of tiny sharing moment. When your baby sleeps well, you're so happy to talk about sleep, and when your baby does not sleep well, you're like, I'm sick of this conversation. I do not want to talk about it.
And I'm exhausted anyway.
I've had both of those babies.
And I think many parents have.
Okay.
The reality of is that babies will have the sleep they need. But what they also need...
Controversial.
It is controversial. And I don't think it's finite. But sleep is a time when the brain has peace and recovery. So the memories are built, the brain is just at a quieter time. So it allows the brain to keep on structuring and building and growing. So sleep is a natural part of our brain growth. Balancing off that, they must sleep, I must put them down at this hour, versus the I'm crying in my bed and I've been left here for 3 hours and I'm still not sleepy, is the balance. So for parents, they have to listen to their babies and be responsive to what their needs are. And there's a real art in this, and we are not parenting. We don't provide parenting advice. If you're really struggling with sleep, I think you're much better to go to a parenting advice organisation or group.
Okay, so but as far as the science of sleep and baby's brain development?
Well, there's an interesting article on our website if anyone's interested in reading it, because it actually explains that often babies wake during the night. So that it's a very natural process that their sleep goes down and they're up and down. And so they may wake and have a time or a phase during their sleep where they are more awake, and they may therefore wake up right up or go to sleep. Have a look at that article, because it will actually reassure parents thinking that their baby should be asleep for 10 hours and what's gone on because they've woken up. It's a very natural phase of development.
Because too, I guess, then how we emotionally approach our children around sleep will affect their ability to get into that peaceful, sleepful state.
And that's what we are. We're the radar to tell them, gee, I'm getting really stressed about this is getting worse and worse, and the baby's picking up, oh, do you sleep? And this is a stressful thing. It's that, again, thinking about what messages you're sending as a parent, and how can you be supported, because you will be tired at times. How can you be supported so you can keep that calm, nurturing, supportive environment?
Got any good ideas about how to be supported? Take a day out.
Have some other humans around you and get some more support.
Yeah, I think that is key. I think we need to do raising children in community. How about this? This is a question. Feel free to type in a question. I'd love to get your questions to Sue from Brainwave Trust Aotearoa. I've heard that singing to your baby is important for brain development. So not neutral, but important. Is it true? And if so, why?
Okay. Singing is part of what's important.
Yes.
Actually, what's important is that we're responsive and talking with.
Okay, so talking with.
It may be that what we really need to think about is, are we really chatting away to our babies? Are we going down to the supermarket and they're sitting there and saying, oh, there's some tins here and I'm going to get little apricots today, and even when they're tiny little baby, just chatting away in the context of what they're doing when they're having a bath. It may be singing, because some people don't feel comfortable.
I was going to say, because some people are like, I can't sing. I don't like singing. But maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe the tunefulness doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we're good singers, bad singers, or if we choose not to sing, but we choose to talk instead.
Okay.
Or if we talk, the other thing we can think about is reading. Some parents find the chatting away hard, so sometimes they hold their babies and sit with them on their lap and play with a book and say, oh, there's flowers and there's trees, and use tools to help them with that chatting with their baby and starting to engage them.
Because I think that could be hard if you feel like you're not creative enough to sing or to make up chitter-chatter. Then using a tool like a book, like reading a book, or talking about an object is a useful thing to just make it easier for yourself.
Books are magical, because one of the things that our research has found is that when you look at little ones that are engaged with books, there's a whole lot that goes with books. You're often cuddling them.
Yeah.
They're often in that sort of calm, peaceful place. You're together.
Yeah.
But the other thing that comes out with books is that it's rich in language beyond what we do in everyday life. When we're sitting in the bath and say, there's water and there's other things. But if you read Hearing Cleary and go into Donaldson's Dairy and all those beautiful rhyming words, you're stretching that language growth. And the other thing you're doing with books is you're actually creating imagination, because they're creating their own growth of their own pictures. So it's very powerful for language development, very powerful.
I've got two things have come to mind, and one is that when we say something like singing is important, then you set up a situation where some parents are like, oh, I'm failing, I'm getting it wrong. Yeah. So that was good clarification to say singing is fantastic, but it's about interacting and responding and having those chatting. And then again, as a parent, you could think, I'm not chatting enough. But I guess it's this idea that just as we would talk to somebody we were in the room with, we would talk to our baby who we're in the room with, even if they can't talk back. I didn't find it hard because I talk to myself all the time. Some people would say that's a sign of something else. But can I return to an earlier point where we were talking about whether it's good to have screen time for babies, and the science is pretty much in, according to what you were suggesting, that screen time before 18 months is of no benefit at all, in fact, unbeneficial. Yeah. So that was about baby and young child screen time. Can I just ask about parent screen time?
Oh gosh.
Because
another new area.
This is tricky. What I'm hearing about and seeing is, in fact, it was a friend of mine who said she's completely riled, and I think that's slightly too strong, but she said she's seeing all of these parents just walking around doing this, pushing a baby, carrying a baby, and their focus is this. And I'm like, don't say anything, you can't interfere. But what's the impact of us being fully engaged in this while the children are wherever they are, walking or being pushed or being pulled or in the car? Or
well, we are in the process of reviewing this.
Okay.
Exactly. We're going to have some more comprehensive material available. Yeah. I will share, and it's very dangerous to share one study, but there is data coming to put a bit of a caution around this. In other words, quite a big study was looking at the time parents were involved with their own media,
yes,
and their child's emotional development and their stability and their ability to be able to behave in a socially positive way. And there does appear to be some impact, and it makes sense. You know, you think about holding a baby when you're breastfeeding, and then if you have a screen, that baby is looking for your eye contact.
Yeah.
That's the depth it can see. If what it's seeing is, instead of mum's eyes and looking down, every now and then, I'm sure we can read a book and look back, but our technologies can really distract us, or in playgrounds, or wherever. We're just not chatting not with our babies in the same way. It might well be impacting our babies.
I heard about a study too that tested mothers' brains, their brain activity when the phone was not being used, so in the room but say down, versus their brain activity and connectedness with their children when the phone was in another room, and they were finding a big difference in connectivity and the mother's brain, and I'm like, whoa, because it is interesting to think this is new technology, so we don't know, but I remember breastfeeding, and I remember I was like, thank goodness it's a chance to sit down. Yes. And have a drink of water or a cold cup of tea, because you never really managed to get to them hot. But it was that the payment for all of that work was the connectivity, like that's the adoring gaze.
Yeah.
That you've got them and they're there and you're there, and that was a very cool thing. But I recognise the appeal of this. It's bright lights and it's action and it's sparkly and it's new and it's always saying,
and it's dinging at us and ringing at us and calling us all the time. It is something parents need to really think about, is the way in which they're using their own phones and their own technologies of children.
We don't always hear what we want to hear.
But I do want to say that nothing's black and white.
Yeah.
The children grow up with a reality. They've got their own temperament, their own personality, the experiences they have. Yeah. And that bundles up to being a whole series of risk factors and protective factors. And I think phones sit on the risk factor side. So you just got to bundle that up with enough and everything else that goes with it.
Speaking of the risk factor side, our phone is drooping and the screen is coming. So the tape that's holding our phone, we can fix it though. A question came in, lovely to hear about books. They said, lovely to hear about books. What age do you start reading to your child?
Well, there's no age that's too early, because in fact it depends how you're using them. At the very beginning, children see the world in black and white.
Yep.
And they've got that distance, that's how they focus. So if you have a book, you're sitting with the baby and it's black and white and it's at that distance, and it helps you in having your conversation, when your relationship with your child, it can help them. It helps their brains grow. But they don't have to have a book, because equally at that stage, but the book enables a lot of conversations, a lot of relationships, and that calm time. And actually there's a strong correlation between reading with your babies and ultimately their development in their thinking, their learning, their problem solving. So many things in their life actually evolve from that language literacy development that come from early reading in books.
Can you say that again?
Really,
you're saying there's a really strong connection between reading books and your child's ability to problem solve.
As they move on through the different types of books, as they're entering school, they're finding the children that have had lots of exposure to books and reading learn better, problem solve better, and have the ability to think differently, and their brains are creative. There is a really concerning thing happening in our country, and that is some children are not being exposed to rich language. and they're arriving at school with a language development that's well below their chronological age. One area, I won't say which one, but they just have done a study and found the children entering school with a 3-year-old ability for language. And what they're finding, they can only speak in phrases. They can't even speak sentences. So it's just speak, talk, play with your babies with language, and books are fabulous to help you.
And actually, with books, for me, it was like rediscovering the library as an adult, because you don't have to. My husband thought I bought too many books anyway. No offence, Hamish. But actually, you can borrow books for free, and there's no overdue fees, are there? The thing that I think I had to let go of is this idea that when I sat down to read a book with my child, that they would sit still and nicely for the entire duration of the book. You have to give up. I had to give up the idea of the complete package of a story. You might get halfway through a story. You might do 1 page of a story, or you might do 3 books, or they might have to read the same book over and over again. For me, it was about letting go of what my idea of reading a book was, and being more flexible.
And that's what they keep, everything is saying, follow your child. They'll flick 3 pages and you'll
be in charge, but follow your child.
Yeah.
Be the parent.
Yeah. There's a really nice article we've just got on our Facebook site at the moment, and it's called Love and Limits. And it describes how do you love your baby but also still provide boundaries for them.
Yeah, the limits
and
is
pretty
really important, aren't they? They're pretty important.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? There's a suggestion on a great evidence-based website on sleep, so you can check that out if you're online. What if you feel like an egg talking to your baby in public?
You feel like an egg.
Embrace the egg. Embrace the egg.
That's all we can say is yes, do.
Yeah, embrace
the egg. And just realise it's about your baby. It's about giving your baby that rich environment. So it's not necessarily about you, and actually anyone else that's looking at you may well be saying, good on you, because they know it helps their baby, it's helping your baby.
I'm sure some of those mums feel stupid standing there on the pavement for ages, just looking, interacting with their child who's interacting with a piece of dirt. But I look at them and go, what an awesome mum. And I think I'd think the same if I was in a supermarket and I saw people gooey. Then maybe I'd be like, oh, so lovely to see. So we probably have to suspend our inner critic. Same with the singing. Sing badly. If you start, this is what happened with me. I used to sing to our babies at night. After 3 babies, I think my singing really improved.
Well done.
Actually really did. So this is the idea of you don't have to be an expert when you start something. You don't have to be a great book reader or an awesome singer or an excellent chatterer. You just need to start, don't you? And
you do.
Practice it every day.
You do.
Yeah.
And don't forget touch in the context of all of this. Okay. Cuddle our babies. Nurture them.
We have a question here. When you have to return to work, do you have any tips for picking childcare? Anything you would prioritise when making a decision? So maybe what would you prioritise in picking childcare? Maybe the age or the place or the stage?
Well, again, come back to what the baby needs. Okay. And what your baby most needs is nurturing, responsive, loving care.
Nurturing, responsive, loving care. Yeah. So that's either given by you or by the quality of the caregiver you choose.
Think about the environment in terms of they're taking in all these sensory experiences. Think about sound, because they're finding some children are coming through now after years of being in external care with some hearing changes.
Okay.
So think about the environment that your little one's going to be in, but in the context of the people. It may be not the most beautiful childcare centre, but think about it in that context. I'd like to share a little bit of work around this. This is quite a difficult area, because when you do choose to go back to work or have to go back to work, you do need to find some alternative care for your babies. But there's quite a lot of data to say that the longer you can delay that, the better it will be for your baby. The longer you can delay it, it means that they will get a longer time to have that stable attachment relationship with somebody they know, who knows them really well, and helps them navigate and build their templates in relationships and managing their emotions as a human being. Amazing amount happens in those early years, 18 months, and a child has developed their sense of empathy for others, trust for others. Now, that is taken from the parenting model.
So empathy and trust are both pretty significant when you're getting on in life. When you say
Social
longer,
skills.
longer is like, what is longer? Is it 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 1 year? You know, like that is...
Okay. I mean, essentially, the earlier a child's in care and the longer they're in care.
So the longer amount of time per day.
The amount of time per day, the greater the risks are.
Risks for...
Of having some adverse effects from it.
Okay.
So that it may affect their emotional stability, it may affect some other things in their lives. If it can be delayed from about 3 onwards, it appears that the benefits do tend to outweigh.
So risk factors. So it can be beneficial post 3.
Yes, they can socialise, and children are ready to socialise by about 2 to 3 onwards.
Yeah.
And so that can be a really beneficial part. The difficulty for parents is that they're often having to think about care options earlier than that.
Yeah.
And I think that the challenge in this is to go back to what does your baby need?
Okay.
How can you meet your baby's needs? And I do want to say that a ratio of 1 to 5 in an early childhood centre with babies, if a mother had twins, we would put all the social supports into that home. But we expect our babies to go into external environments where it's a ratio of 1 to 5, and expect those women and young women to manage 5 babies at one time. You cannot give that same rich environment for them.
So that is challenging.
That's very challenging.
So you're essentially saying when you're looking for childcare options, to really think about your environment, the atmosphere you're putting them into, and the people who they're going to be with.
Most important is the people.
Okay,
Are the people going to be responsive, loving and caring?
What else?
And stable. I'm sorry, I should say one more thing.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is that in some centres there's quite a high personnel turnover.
Okay.
And what your baby's going to do is to have a relationship, ideally, with somebody that is not you. And so ideally that person will be available and stable for years, months and years, not just a few weeks. So think about that.
I guess you can ask that before you pick a childcare. You can find out what staff turnover is. That's a valid question.
And ask their policies about how do they match babies with the adults and what they're doing.
Okay. Challenging.
It is challenging.
And you do want to get it right, don't you? We're all. I think that's something parents are wanting the best for their children.
Yeah.
So, we're actually making decisions based on circumstances that are very varied.
And I do want to say, just to put this in context, that it is one risk factor. In the context of the child has so many other protective factors, positive things happening in their lives. It is one risk factor that can sit in their lives. It's not going to make or break them as a young person growing up.
Did you hear that, mummies and daddies? That's good to know, because I think we do have to have it in context, don't we? And if you have to return to work, or you for your own reasons, then it's about setting yourself up for success as much as possible, and then not feeling guilty when you're at home with your child, but actually knowing how to input and make sure that time is quality and affirming and building those positive responses.
Absolutely.
Lorena says, any advice on children with FASD? How to engage them, and how can we help diagnose them? Do you want to unpack that?
FASD is fetal alcohol syndrome disorder, and we do know that alcohol can affect babies in utero.
Yeah.
I think this question is about after a child has had that experience, what can you do with them? This is actually quite expert and personal advice. The babies that have been exposed to this need expert support, and we're not an organisation that can do anything other than to tell you, please don't drink alcohol when you're pregnant, because it really is a Russian roulette in terms of the potential effects on your babies.
Okay, and then if you have a baby with fetal alcohol syndrome disorder, then to go and seek expert help.
Get support from your general practitioner
or
start with your doctor. I would.
Okay. All right. Jules says, at-home childcare is amazing. Small groups and attentive carers.
And that's again looking at the focus on what's the baby having, and if they've got lovely, responsive, attentive carers, that's looking at what your baby needs, which is in care. It won't necessarily mean that can happen at home. We understand that can happen in institutional care as well. It's just looking at that, knowing that's important, and finding it.
Okay, cool. Feel free to send any more questions in. Oh, are we out of time? Were we doing an hour or half an hour? Talk to me.
Oh, we're good. We're good if you're done.
We're good. Okay, well, we'll have to do next time. We'll have to do emotional development, housing babies, and opulence. Oh, I can't wait for episode 2. So thanks so much to everybody who's joined us, and Sue Wright from Brainwave Trust Aotearoa. It was super interesting to talk and listen with you today. See how I didn't say to you or talk to you, but to listen and talk with you. I'm learning. We have an amazing event happening at Green Lane in Auckland on Thursday the 29th of June. So I think that's next Thursday. And you can get tickets online through the Parenting Place website. But why would you get a ticket? Well, you'd get a ticket because we're going to have a range of experts talking about different elements of raising your 0 to 2-year-old. So we're going to be talking about brain development, of course, with Norma Hayward from the Brainwave Trust. We're going to talk about attachment, sleep routine, relationships and mental health, and going to cover allergies and nutrition and all that sort of good stuff. We'll be able to do questions and answers, so if you've got an issue, please come along. Visit the website to buy tickets. It's $20 for one, $30 for two. I'll be there. It'll be lovely to see you. And thanks for joining us today on Facebook. That was easy, wasn't it?
Oh, you a little bit, if I may, just in case anybody would like to get information from Brainwave, I'm just going to give you our website, which is brainwave.org.nz. And also our Facebook site you can go to from there as well. There's lots of articles, lots of information that you can get from there. So thank you.
Check it out and be brainy. Give your baby a head start in life. Thanks, Sue.